this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
At Lowe's, get up to 35% off select major appliances. Plus, members get free delivery, install, and more when you spend $2,500 on select major appliances. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 2/25 while supplies last. Selection varies by location. Excludes Massachusetts, Maryland, Wisconsin, New Jersey, Florida. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Visit Lowe's.com/terms for details. Subject to change.
Visit your nearby Lowe's on East 17th Avenue in Hutchinson.
Sometimes all we want is more of the same, like another round of golf played from a channel with 24/7 coverage, another look at the garden, and the deer as they pick their way through it, another Taco Tuesday, followed by a whatever's in the fridge Wednesday. And to get more of the same, all we need is a little help. With adaptable care plans from qualified, compassionate caregivers matched to your family's needs, Home Instead can help you and your passions stay home, no matter what's on your horizon. Visit Home Instead online for a better what's next.
You see it instantly. It's Coldwater Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
Body Bags with Joseph Scott Moore.
Many people think about the dead, and one of the names that is probably most prominent among the dead is, or are, the terms John Doe and Jane Doe. What does that mean? Well, as an old death investigator, it means to me that the person, at least when we began to work on the case, didn't have a specific identity. But in our hearts, we know that that person that lay before us without a driver's license, without a family, maybe without dental records, was held in the arms of a mother at some point in time, that was loved and caressed. But for that instant, when we in the medical legal profession enter onto the stage, they're nameless. But for me, it holds a special meaning. Coming to you live from Denver, CrimeCon 2025. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags. I gotta do a shout out real quick to the best producer and best friend that I would say as an adult I have ever had, other than my wife, Kimmy, all right? When you sit across a mic from somebody for a long, long time now, and we're heading toward, 450 episodes, and we've known each other prior to that, you get to learn a lot about a person. And so I'm very grateful to Dave Mack. Dave Mack, my friend. So give it up for Dave. And plus, I want you to give it up to us because we're at the mercy of Nancy Grace. So
I'll tell you what, man, these white lights make me feel like somebody is going to say, they have ways of making you talk. This is like scary beams, man.
It is. Either that or you got any ID on you, son?
Yeah.
So there you go.
We'll be going through that with the rest of you at TSA, right? That's going to be a fun one. Where are the tunnels in Denver?
I don't know.
I don't know.
So for us, we cover a lot of cases. We do a lot of unidentified cases initially, and my heart has always been with the unidentified. I was just talking to the folks with NamUs, who I'm such a huge fan of, because I don't think most people understand how many unidentified people there are nationwide. That's why the work that Othram is doing. Did anybody get to meet David or Kristen Middleman? Listen, first off, I don't know if this is an accurate comparison, but David Middleman is literally the Elon Musk of
man.
His IQ is off the scales, and he has such a big heart because his goal is to try to get every name off of that list. Can you imagine that? Over 30,000 people that are unidentified. There's empty chairs everywhere around this country at Thanksgiving, and there's many that will never know who they are, but that's their goal. And
can you actually get into where the whole John Doe, Jane Doe
Yeah,
comes
so
from?
John Doe itself it's got an interesting history. It goes back to English common law, and they had to have what was referred to as a placeholder. And there are anonymous cases that are brought up. You have that have to go to court. You have some people that want to remain anonymous, for instance. There's many famous cases out there that involve a Jane or a John Doe. And over a period of time, it seeped into the medical legal world because we had to have something to call the individual by. But can anybody tell me what the problem with using John or Jane Doe is?
You can tell he's a real professor in school, right? You know that. At Jacksonville State University, he actually is a professor. He teaches a class. So when he asks you questions or gives you homework today, you don't have to do it. Just like it was in college for many of us.
Dave, there you go. Does anybody know why you shouldn't use those names? Well, yeah, there's actually people out there with the names of John and Jane Doe, and there's actually...
Who would do that?
I know, exactly.
That's like naming a kid Richard when his last name is Head. Come on.
Yeah, that's bad, man. That's bad. But yeah, so you've got people that are out there that have these names.
You're just catching that, aren't you?
I see what you're doing. When you're out there and you have this name that you bear for your entire life, and then suddenly you're associated with an unknown person, you know your personage. You know that you're not unknown. And it creates problems because people will say, well, are you real? Or is this fake? Are you just trying to give me a false name? And no, that's not the case. And so there have been any number of times where you've run into that problem over the years. That's why my last stop in the medical legal world, we no longer used John or Jane Doe. And we had adopted the idea of using UID, unidentified, and then they get a case number. And I know it's numbers, but yet it is a specific number to that individual. And we could go back and try to get them identified from that point in time. If we release something about the body out into the public, we'll give physical descriptors of them. Maybe they had red hair, maybe, they were 6 feet tall or whatever the case might be. Sometimes you have skeletal remains where you don't have any identifiers whatsoever. If you're lucky enough to find teeth that are left behind, you can talk about the uniqueness of any kind of restorations, dental restorations they may have had, or appliances and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's very non-specific. But, for me personally, I think that when we're born, we don't have a choice in who we're going to be named after. That rests with your parents and maybe even your grandparents, as in my case, that you're going to bear a name for the rest of your life. Some of you, I'm sure there's some of you in here that might love the name that you were given. Others, not so much.
Did you know that you were named after somebody? Like all your life?
Yeah.
You always knew that you were named after a relative.
Yes, yeah.
Anybody else? Did you know you were named after a relative from
Show of hands. Let's
earliest
see.
days? Okay.
Anybody? Okay.
Now, how many of you found out later in life that you were named after a relative?
Okay.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and for me, since I was a little bitty boy, I was raised primarily by my grandmother in a town called Monroe, Louisiana. And I had families in North Louisiana and in South Louisiana. And we were in the branch that was up north. And there were, if anybody's ever read my book, Blood Beneath My Feet, I talk about my grandmother, Pearl. And she had 5 sisters, and there was one boy, and he was the oldest. And his name was Joseph, Joseph Frazier Killian. And Joseph was married and had kids. He was actually the president, or as they refer to, the secretary of the State Painters Union. And he decided who was going to get painting contracts. And it was a rather powerful position, I guess.
Well, no, you're in Louisiana,
Yeah.
and you're talking about in the post-war 40s, right?
No, yeah, well, he was active in the 50s, yeah.
Okay, a lot of activity between 1946 and through the 50s, and he's in charge of doling out contracts.
Yes.
To major construction things throughout the state. Okay.
Yeah, and individuals too that would come to him and ask for jobs. And you know, a lot of people, if you've ever been denied a contract for anything, a lot of people get their feelings hurt. And
with the last name like Killian.
Well, that was his name, but he had run across a fellow named James Moore, who wanted a contract to paint a school and a bridge. All right, and as you know, if you've ever been to Louisiana, we got a lot of bridges there and a lot of water to cross, and it was a big contract. And for whatever reason, Sky was a bit unstable. My uncle didn't feel cool with giving him the contract, and it went to somebody else. And the guy badgered him for some time. There were some altercations. And then one day in 1951, he's in West Monroe, Louisiana. He's sitting in a barbershop. This is my uncle, Joseph. He's sitting in a barbershop. He's just gotten his hair trimmed. He smells of barber salts, you know, hair slicked back. And he exits onto the street in West Monroe, which is right. The street literally is along the riverfront, Washita River there, or was back then. And across the street, this fellow named James Moore was sitting in a cafe with his wife, and he had a .38 caliber revolver. And the story goes that he was
Wait a minute, just to get the geography.
Yeah.
He's your Joe Killian gets his hair done.
Yeah.
Okay. And across the street in a little restaurant sits Moore.
Sims Cafe was the name.
Okay, Sims Cafe, where the guy who has been denied at least 2 contracts we know of by Mr. Killian is sitting there with a .38 revolver with his wife.
With his wife.
But he's playing with
the bullets on the table.
Okay.
And if you've ever, seen bullets roll across the table and being rolled about, they're very loud. And everybody in the cafe heard him saying this. He would say, forgive my language, he would say, that sumbitch Killian, I'm killing him. Sumbitch Killian, I'm killing him. And they knew that he was in the barbershop. And he began to load the gun, walked out into the street. And as my uncle was walking out, going to his car, he gets into an altercation with my uncle, and his wife is there as well, Moore's wife. He pushes her out of the way and begins shooting my uncle. My uncle is adjacent to a car. Well, he's hitting my uncle, and my uncle is screaming out, please, please, make him stop, make him stop. And in his last few breaths, it was his last few breaths, he manages to crawl under the car, and Moore continues with this .38 caliber revolver by sticking it under the car and pulls the trigger until it goes click.
He was pretty determined to take this guy out.
He was very, very determined, and the story goes that Moore just kind of calmly walks down the street with his wife, and they're headed toward the river like he's going to go fish off the bank of the Washita River at that point in time. And my uncle lay bleeding there in the street. They pulled him out, took him to the same hospital where I was born, St. Francis Hospital in Monroe, and he died in the emergency room. And my grandmother, who raised me practically, handled all the business for the family, everything. She was that one resilient, I don't know if you guys have a relative like this, she handled all of the problems in the family. She was the problem solver. Uncle Joe's wife was too fragile to do anything. My grandmother took charge of everything and handled it. And it was a blinding moment for the family. It changed the entire family because they'd never experienced violence like this, and particularly back during those days. And it was literally a daylight execution that had happened, and it really hit the papers.
There were 4 shots, or 4, he unloaded the gun, right?
He unloaded it,
okay.
yeah.
And we know that at least one of those shots was when your uncle was standing.
Yeah.
And we know the last one was after he's on the ground and under the car, where the killer bends down and shoots him under the car.
Yes.
What injuries did he suffer?
Yeah, so my uncle was actually shot in the lateral chest. This is, if you'll raise your hands and put your hand on either side. And anatomically, these are actually the lateral chest. You have the chest here, and you actually have a posterior chest as well. So Uncle Joe was shot in his lateral chest. He was shot in the chest, which is an indication that the shooter was facing him at that point in time. It's probably an initial shot. He rotated, shot right here. And I've always believed, because they talked about how he had sustained a round that passed through his jugular vein. So more than likely, when he stuck the weapon under the vehicle, it hit him in the throat right here. He had no chance of living at all, and he bled out or exsanguinated at that point in time. And then he was transported to the hospital. It was horrible. They had the wake for him. They buried him, and then more is left behind, right? And initially, the parish prosecutor, which in Louisiana, you don't have counties, you have parishes, didn't bring charges. And then when he finally did, his initial charge was going to be capital murder. And he has said that he was going to make sure that he went to Angola and he fried.
Now, there were witnesses to this. It was in the middle of the day. Guy walks out of a barbershop, and others at a cafe, at Sim's Cafe.
Yeah.
So you have plenty of people that saw what was happening, saw the argument between Moore and his wife.
Right.
Although we don't know what the argument was about, I kind of assume that he's rolling bullets across the table and she's going, "Don't do it, don't do it." We don't know that, but they get into an argument. So there's plenty of people that see the before, during, and after. Were they willing to come forward?
Yeah, they got statements from everyone. The police questioned them extensively. And, there was a full, this case went before a grand jury.
Okay.
The DA at the time said that he was going to go for, in Louisiana, it was first degree homicide, which carries capital punishment, still does to this day. But when it came out of grand jury, they decided to charge him with manslaughter. Yeah. And so he was charged with manslaughter. They had a state politician who was very powerful, Louisiana politics. He acts as Moore's defense attorney, tries to put up a insanity defense and fails miserably. Moore gets convicted of manslaughter, and he's supposed to be in prison for a minimum of 25 years. Going to Angola, which, if you're not familiar with Angola, brutal location. It's probably one of the most brutal prisons in America still to this day. And as it turned out, they allowed Moore to go up for parole after only 2 years.
I still have trouble with the manslaughter thing.
Yeah, I know. I do too.
If there's not premeditation, you're sitting there with your coffee and your bacon, and you're rolling bullets across the table, and you're thinking, I'm taking that. I want to kill Killian. I don't see how you can change that to, it was a fleeting moment of passion and just, that makes no sense to me.
No, it doesn't. And, my grandmother and her sisters, the whole clan shows up at the trial. They're watching it day after day. He gets convicted. And it's very, as many families can identify with, it's very dissatisfying.
Yeah.
You know, I think that we've seen a lot of cases in recent history in the news that leave people less than being satisfied with things.
So he serves 2 years and comes up for parole.
And as it turns out, the former lieutenant governor of the state of Louisiana, a guy named Banham, was the brother of the guy that represented him, and he's on the parole board.
Wow. That's not crooked.
No. He winds up recommending him for parole. The brother of Huey P. Long, who was the governor assassinated in Louisiana back in the 30s, Earl Long. If you ever saw the movie Blaze with Paul Newman, played the crazy governor in Louisiana. This is the guy. He actually signs his parole. He's released after only 2 years.
Wow.
And so this becomes, in my family, a real benchmark for the family moving forward. My grandmother and her sisters were, as you can imagine, less than satisfied. So when he was released, my grandmother and all of her sisters got together every single year and had a black wreath created, and it was sent to this man's home every single year for at least 25 years.
Wow.
And it was expected, and this happened on the anniversary of my uncle's death, all this period of time. So this was still going on when I was born. Wow. My uncle died essentially 13 years before I was ever born. So when I came screaming into the world, I was the only, out of all of my grandmother's sisters, which is really interesting. At that time, I was the only grandchild, and there were no others. And so I took it. They gave me the name Joseph. And so from the time that you're little, you're hearing these stories of this person that's kind of intertwined with your life, and he becomes kind of heroic for me. To kind of give you an idea of how kind of interlaced our family was, I was born to teenage parents, very young, and they had no money. I wound up living with my grandmother, who took care of me from when I was a little bitty. My mother was in the picture. She was working. My father was nowhere to be found. But yet we were living with his mother, and she took care of me. I mean, she was this amazing person. Her name was Pearl. And my father would show up periodically in a very violent rage most of the time, stayed chronically unemployed, would get into fights, these sorts of things. And so you jump forward, I'm growing up in this kind of pretty secure environment with my grandmother and their home. My father would make an appearance every now and then, but it would always erupt into some kind of violence, and then he would disappear into the night.
So, do you want to start shopping for your next car, but don't know where to begin? Start at CarMax, where you can shop your way from start to finish. Whether you're shopping for something practical, adventurous, or luxurious, CarMax puts you in the driver's seat. And if you want to shop cars that fit your budget, CarMax has your back all the way. Simply grab your phone and get pre-qualified from your couch, the dog park, or even on a coffee break. It's quick, easy, and has zero impact on your credit score. Want to explore your options? CarMax has plenty of options. In fact, with over 45,000 cars to choose from, CarMax has rides for almost every budget, including more than 25,000 cars priced under $25,000. From browsing online to checking out cars on the lot, you can shop your way at CarMax. Want to get started on the search for your next car? Start at CarMax.com for details and get pre-qualified today. Want to drive? CarMax.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
When you stay in your home, what you love gets to stay too. From the gardens that grow wild to the grandkids that run wilder. From the Friday night baseball games to the Sunday morning brunches. Even the daily crosswords and weekly book clubs. There's room for it all with help from Home Instead, the largest in-home senior care network with over 30 years of trusted experience delivering the peace of mind you deserve. Visit Home Instead online for a better what's next.
You see it instantly. It's Coldwater Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
In 1968, my father showed up at my grandmother's house, and he was drunk and had a shotgun. And he's throwing furniture against the back of the house, screaming for the blood of everybody in the house, my grandmother, my grandfather. My mother shows up from work. He's throwing heavy lawn furniture at her, the old cast iron furniture that people used to have in the yard. Barely misses her. My grandfather steps out of the house, grabs her, pulls her into the house. My father starts firing off the shotgun, and I'm about 6 at this time, I think. And my grandmother takes me into her bedroom and puts me under her bed. And I remember still now the old man that I am now looking out from beneath the bed, and I could see my grandmother's knees, and she's in prayer, and she's screaming out for God to have mercy on the family, and my father is still violently throwing things against the house, firing the shotgun. My grandfather used to carry rabbit's foot, and he used to walk around with rabbit's foot, and he'd rub it all the time. It was worn down all the time. He's off in another room. He wasn't a praying man. My mother was able to call for the police, and back then you didn't call 911, you just called what? Anybody know? 0. Called the operator, and the operator sent the police to the house. And I remember as a little boy, the police getting there, and my father drunk, bloodied, because they had just beat him all to hell and back in the backyard of my parents' house. They had my grandparents' house had unarmed him. And I went to the window, and I looked down at my father, who was cuffed, and these cops back then, these deputy sheriffs in Louisiana, North Louisiana is more like Texas than it is South Louisiana. And they're dressed in khaki tops, khaki pants. They all wore Stetson cowboy hats, had cowboy boots on. And they were just beating him senseless. He had blood coming out of his nose. And my grandmother was very well known around the town. She was a paralegal. Unlike many women of her generation, she didn't get married till she's 29 and had worked as a paralegal for years and years, had gone to business college, as they call it. And it was her only son. She was standing there, And they kind of saw that it was coming because he had a very violent history in the past. He had actually, when he was 13 years old, had picked up a double-bladed axe and tried to kill my grandfather's brother, who was a World War II vet, and chased him around the yard with a double-bladed axe. So that's kind of the man that my mother married.
Wow.
And back then, they used to give you a choice, and people might find this fascinating. They used to give you a choice about relative to if you got a choice. This is during the Vietnam era. You either go to prison or you join the Marine Corps, and this was an option, and he chose the Marine Corps. Well, you've got a person that's already unstable anyway, and now they're going into the Marine Corps, and they're going to get sent to Vietnam. So, he goes, gets sent to Vietnam, Southeast Asia, and
not going to come back a kinder, gentler soul.
No, he wasn't reformed on any level at all. He had not had any epiphanies over there, that's for sure.
He had a really nice necklace of ears, though, that you like to have.
Well, I never saw that, but I did see all of the. It was almost like the darkness was super enhanced, when he got back. He gathered up me and my mother. I was still very young, and drove us to Georgia from Louisiana, from the only home I'd ever known, and deposited me and my mother there in a house trailer, and was gone within 6 months. And so he left us, he took us away from everything that we knew, and left and kind of vanished into.
So he got your mom and you away from family, friends, and all your relationships in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Moves you to Georgia, where your mom knows nobody.
Yeah.
And then leaves 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Leaves.
Nice man.
Yeah, he really was. And when we're in Georgia, my mother, again, she's, involved in this process of just trying to help us survive. And she gets a job, and she winds up working at a textile factory as a key punch operator. And she winds up meeting this man who's very wealthy and highly educated. And I discussed this. I did a Lad Bible interview, I guess about a year ago, over in London. And I kind of gave the backstory of this, and I'll repeat it right now. But she marries this man within 6 months, and he turns out to be a sadist. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be, I don't want to knock your mom for being a bad judge of character, but good gravy.
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me about that in the wake of
Bless her heart.
Of Blood Beneath My Feet.
Yeah.
And having written the book and discussing how my life had gone. And don't get me wrong, I know it sounds like sad sack, and I'm very grateful. I mean, there are a lot of people that like to be in the position I'm in right now. I'm very blessed and thankful for everything I have, but because of the childhood that I had, starting back even before I was born, and I'm hung, with this name of Joseph, it made me, as I got older, it made me very contemplative about this idea. Are we, some people say that they're born under a cloud. Some people say that, your destiny is kind of laid out before you ever step off into life. And I'd often wondered, had that kind of been my track? Because early on in my life, I was exposed, even, before I was ever born, there was a homicide. Then as I was about 6 years old, there was an attempted homicide. And then when I was growing up with, living in the house with this man who I can't even begin to describe the level of abuse, that went on in that environment. I used to, when I was a small child, and a young teenager, I would lay in my bed and I would pray. And I would pray and I would say, God, if I ever have a wife, if I ever have a family, I'm going to literally go opposing to everything I've borne witness to in my life. I was going to absolutely do the opposite. And I know that sounds like George Costanza, but I was the original George Costanza. And and it never really failed me, this idea. It never really failed me because I knew that I had a template in my life for what not to do. Guys, do you realize how close I could have been to going down a different path? And there are a lot of people that come up in the same environment that I came up, and they weren't provided with opportunities, and they're sitting in prisons right now all over the country. And it start off in these abusive environments. They're exposed to a lot of the stuff. A lot of stuff that Dave and I talk about is the end result of these lives that they've led. Some of the cases, not all of them. And you bear witness to that throughout your life. And when I look back and I'd finally gotten freed up from the house that I grew up in, went off and went to basic training in the Army and was in the National Guard, I really had nowhere to go. And that's when I essentially landed in New Orleans, back with that side of the family down there, living in Louisiana, working in a hospital, trying to go to college. A lot of
you
people,
really were the Richard Gere character in Officer and a Gentleman. I got nowhere else to go.
I got nowhere else to go, yeah.
I knew he was named. I knew it was after you, all along.
All along. You'll be my Lou Gossett Jr.
Hey, Kim, Deborah Winger got the hat. Yeah.
You sit there and you think about the things that come into your life, and people have asked me about my career, how did you get started? Because most people think that folks that are in forensics and do the things that we do, that you're on a very specific path, for education and training and all that.
So, do you want to start shopping for your next car, but don't know where to begin? Start at CarMax, where you can shop your way from start to finish. Whether you're shopping for something practical, adventurous, or luxurious, CarMax puts you in the driver's seat. And if you want to shop cars that fit your budget, CarMax has your back all the way. Simply grab your phone and get pre-qualified from your couch, the dog park, or even on a coffee break. It's quick, easy, and has zero impact on your credit score. Want to explore your options? CarMax has plenty of options. In fact, with over 45,000 cars to choose from, CarMax has rides for almost every budget, including more than 25,000 cars priced under $25,000. From browsing online to checking out cars on the lot, you can shop your way at CarMax. Want to get started on the search for your next car? Start at CarMax.com for details and get pre-qualified today. Want to drive? CarMax.
Support for the show comes from Public, the investing platform for those who take it seriously. On Public, you can build a multi-asset portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, crypto, and now generated assets, which allow you to turn any idea into an investable index with AI. It all starts with your prompt. From renewable energy companies with high free cash flow to semiconductor suppliers growing revenue over 20% year over year, you can literally type any prompt and put the AI to work. It screens thousands of stocks, builds a one-of-a-kind index, and lets you backtest it against the S&P 500. Then you can invest in a few clicks. Generated assets are like ETFs with infinite possibilities, completely customizable and based on your thesis, not someone else's. Go to public.com/podcast and earn an uncapped 1% bonus when you transfer your portfolio. That's public.com/podcast. Paid for by Public Investing. Brokerage services by Open to the Public Investing Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services by Public Advisors LLC, SEC registered advisor. Generated assets is an interactive analysis tool. Output is for informational purposes only and is not an investment recommendation or advice. Complete disclosures available at public.com/disclosures.
Sometimes all we want is more of the same, like another round of golf played from a channel with 24/7 coverage, another look at the garden, and the deer as they pick their way through it, another Taco Tuesday, followed by a whatever's in the fridge Wednesday. And to get more of the same, all we need is a little help. With adaptable care plans from qualified, compassionate caregivers matched to your family's needs, Home Instead can help you and your passions stay home, no matter what's on your horizon. Visit Home Instead online for a better what's next.
You see it instantly. It's Coldwater Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
I've had a lot of people come up to me this past weekend and ask me about education and training. I'm so grateful for that. But I did everything, like I said, the opposite. I did everything in reverse. I actually started working in the morgue as a volunteer. You know, now they won't let you walk into a morgue and see an autopsy most of the time. So now, you know, when I'm in my early 20s, it just so happens that the coroner's office in New Orleans or in Jefferson Parish was being renovated, and I was working in this brand new hospital, and for some reason they agreed with the coroner in this pristine environment to allow them to bring decomposing bodies into this hospital. And if you know anything about South Louisiana, there are a lot of decomposing bodies down there. And the reason is the environment is so harsh. And so you're kind of in this pristine environment. And I started working in the morgue, and I sat at the feet of a forensic pathologist who took his time to teach me. And that little flame was burning within me that had started as a child, that I was going to do something with my life that no one else could do. I would be willing to sit through the most horrible things and bear witness to them. And I was going to prove that I was not like my biological father.
Good for you.
You know, and because that had been drummed in my head, you're going to turn out just like your father, you know, that sort of thing. And so I progressed with my career just going to autopsies, volunteering, doing anything that they asked me to do. I teach now, you know, and I have kids that come to me and they say, "Hey, Professor Morgan, how'd you get started?" And I told them, I said, "I volunteered." They said, "You didn't get paid?" I was like, "No." "Well, I want a paid internship." And it's like, I don't even know what that is. I guess they have them. I didn't have one. I worked full time. I went to college full time, and then I would go to autopsies. And eventually, you know, and this is kind of a weird space to be in. It's kind of a weird space to be in. They taught me first in the morgue how to close a body. And when you're closing a body, you use what's called a baseball stitch. You get a big S-shaped needle, and you actually use kite string is what you use. And I was taught how to close a body, and then I'd be handed a mop and say, "Clean up everything." And clean up a morgue is not like cleaning up your kitchen. I'll put it to you that way. And then one day the pathologist looks at me and says, "Do you want to open?" And I was like, "The crypt, you know, to take the body out?" He's like, "No, do you want to open?" And I remember at that moment in time thinking, I had a young lady ask me backstage, "What's the craziest question you've ever been asked?" And I actually had a student one time ask me if the dead feel pain. And I'm standing over the body with a scalpel in my hand under the direction of a forensic pathologist, and I'm thinking, I don't know if I can do this. And how much pressure do you apply? And this was, I'd been watching them do it, and I'd been taking notes for them, staying clean, and then I'd clean up. And it's a weird moment in time when you take that blade and you press it against the skin, and you don't know how deep it's going to go. And then you begin to make that incision. And I wanted to check and make sure that I still had all the fingers on my other hand, because I had this terrible fear of cutting myself. I remember that. And wound up from that moment in time involved in roughly 7,000 autopsies, I guess, over the course of my career.
Does it take more pressure to cut into a dead body than a live body?
Yeah, it can. It all depends on, a lot of it depends upon the temperature of the cooler that the body has been in, because the tissue actually will firm up. I've done autopsies or participated in autopsies on bodies that were so fresh that when I opened the body, the organs were still warm.
Oh, wow.
Come directly from a hospital.
Are you sure
it was a
dead?
major homicide investigation that was being done, and you could still feel, you know, the heat. I gave my presentation yesterday on, was anybody there for postmortem interval? Thank you for coming. I really appreciate that. The core body temperature, I've done those autopsies so early on after the death event that, you know, I talked about core body temperature yesterday and how they like to try to measure it in the liver. You can still feel, you know, the heat kind of radiating off the organs. Wow. I know anybody that works in an OR here, this sounds ridiculous to them because the environment that they work in, they deal with people that are living. But when you're in this environment where you're surrounded by the dead, it's kind of, you know, because most bodies that you get that come into the morgue are refrigerated, you know, that's kind of a sensory thing, you know, that goes on with you at that moment in time. And, you know, when you're young, you're envisioning all kinds of things, you know, that could go wrong, that you've done, you know, that you haven't learned everything that you need to know, because not only, it's not like doing an autopsy, say, for instance, in a hospital where you're looking for specific disease pathology. In forensic autopsies, you have to think about disease pathology, but you also have to think about trace evidence as well. What am I doing prior to? Have I collected everything that needs to be collected? What am I doing internally? And if I open the body in this manner, am I going to screw up a wound track? Wow. Because you don't want to cut across a particular area, and the wound track can be either a firearms projectile, it can be a knife injury. I've had cases that have come in that I've assisted in where I've literally had I've had people that are impaled on things, and so where the firefighters will come out and they'll clip like a piece of rebar. I've had that happen several times where you'll clip it at this end, clip it at this end, and the indwelling piece of rebar arrives with the body in the morgue. And you don't want to remove it at the scene because you want to try to be able to track it. If you can, you want to be able to x-ray it. And then if you have multiple gunshot wounds, I remember we had a case involving a fellow that weighed roughly 480 plus pounds that died in the back of a trailer house, and he was bloated in addition to that.
Holy moly.
And he had been shot with a 25 caliber pistol, which is a very tiny caliber. That particular firearm held 7 rounds. They reloaded 3 times. So we had 21 rounds in this guy that was morbidly obese, decomposing, and so you had multiple wound tracks that were running throughout his body. There was a lot of anger involved in that case.
Wow. I was just thinking it took extra time to get him because of all the flub.
We actually could not get him down the hallway. They cut the back end, the back corner of the trailer out, and we removed him that way with the fire department and literally put him into the back of a pickup truck and covered him. Wow. To get him to the morgue.
You imagine driving down the road, that sheet gives way in the back and it's flopping in the breeze.
That's actually happened.
Yeah, it has.
Not to me.
But hey, before we move forward, I want to stop real quick because you mentioned a number of things.
Yeah.
Overcoming your upbringing where they say you're going to be just like your father, you're never going to raise above it, and you actually make a conscious decision.
Yeah.
To be the opposite. I am not going down this path. I'm not going to be the guy that terrorizes a 6-year-old under the bed while his grandmother hits her knees begging God to intercede. Mm-hmm. You made that call to be different.
Yeah.
And you went on a different track.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this weekend, a lot of you, because of your schedule of speaking, a lot of you came by the booth and I had a chance to talk to a lot of you. And I'm so thankful for that because y'all have no idea what you mean to us. But many people, Joe,
thank you,
have asked about getting involved in a career in what we do, whether it's podcasting or forensics. A number of you asked about how does somebody get involved in this? Can you volunteer, to learn how to work with a dead body? Others have talked about the podcasting, and I'm going to tell you this. It does not matter how old you are right this minute. September 7th in Denver, Colorado at CrimeCon 2025. If you want to do something with your life, do it. All you have to do is say, I'm starting today. Whatever you've done in the past just got you here. Apologize for the mistakes you've made, pray for forgiveness, and move forward today. Leave here with a goal. If you want to learn how to do what Joe does, then for the love, please go look up Jacksonville State University online. We've been handing out stuff all weekend. There's a great program there. He did that. You can learn. You're not too old. I promise you. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares how old you are when you start. It's a long game.
Yeah, it is.
And I guarantee you, if you don't do it, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
And next year you'll be here going, wow, I should have done that a year ago. Yeah, you should have. Merry Christmas.
With that said, pushing forward into the media and doing everything that you do, remembering, I think for me, where I come from, the source of my name. There are many times I really wonder, because I never met him, I really wonder if I've done Uncle Joe proud, hoping that I've taken that name forward. And my son, his name is Noah, but his middle name is Joseph. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags.
Very good.
Sometimes all we want is more of the same, like another round of golf played from a channel with 24/7 coverage, another look at the garden, and the deer as they pick their way through it, another Taco Tuesday, followed by a whatever's in the fridge Wednesday. And to get more of the same, all we need is a little help. With adaptable care plans from qualified, compassionate caregivers matched to your family's needs, Home Instead can help you and your passions stay home, no matter what's on your horizon. Visit Home Instead online for a better what's next.
You see it instantly. It's Coldwater Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
This is Teddy Mellencamp from Two Teas in a Pod with Teddy Mellencamp and Tamara Judge. There's a new season of 90 Day The Single Life, and it's hotter than ever.
If you've never seen 90 Day before, this is the one that will get you hooked. Their marriages crumbled. Now, 8 singles are taking the lead and stepping back out to the scariest place of all, the dating world.
There will be exciting first dates, steamy hookups, big letdowns, and potential love waiting in the most unexpected places.
Don't miss a new season of 90 Day The Single Life, Monday at 8 on TLC.
After the holidays, your home deserves a reset, not another routine. Right now, get a free Pura home diffuser when you subscribe to 2 cents for 12 months, risk-free for 30 days. Create calm on your terms. Visit Pura.com.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.